All right, so we are live. A little bit of a late start tonight, but do a little bit of a warm up here, and then we'll go straight into it. So we are live on TikTok and YouTube, and tonight we'll be talking about VA loan house hacking. So if you haven't been following this course, we are in class number 5. And this is part 5, class 5 of a 6-part series that I specifically designed for service members, teaching you the ropes of how to become financially free in 36 months while serving on active duty. I know it's a mouthful, but it is 100% achievable. And I'm giving you the map, but I can't walk the course for you. So all right. Well, let's get into it. Okay, so we've talked a lot. We've talked about changing your mindset. We've talked about real estate in general. We've talked about business. We've talked about a lot of things up until now. We've touched a little bit on the VA loan, but tonight we're going to go more in depth with what exactly house hacking is, why it works, why it's so powerful, and how you can get started wherever you're at, whatever your background is, whatever your credit score. My overall theme and thesis for everybody that I talk to is I don't care where you start. The goal is that you have to move forward. That is it. If you have a 200 credit score and you're like, I don't qualify for the VA loan and blah, blah, and the lenders don't talk to me, that's fantastic. You have your start point. Your start point is a 200 credit score. So I'm going to explain what house hacking is. I'm going to explain how to look for good properties. I'm going to explain what to look for, all these other things. And you can still learn that stuff right now. You don't need a good credit score to start learning. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start working towards getting a better credit score, and you're going to work towards saving up more money and continuing to make improvements slowly over time, or as fast as you can. And then within a matter of months to maybe it's a couple of years, you get to your goal faster. Okay. Where most people would just quit and give up and they'd be like, I would never qualify for this. This isn't for me, X, Y, or Z. You've already made progress faster. Okay. So we do not accept just sitting there and complaining. You have to get up, you have to pick yourself up, and you have to move forward. You have to start making progress. You have to start learning. You have to start educating yourself. There's no real magic sauce to it. You kind of just have to put in the work and spend the time. So, okay. All right. Where's everybody coming in from tonight before we get started? Couple people on TikTok here. Anybody in Ohio? I always like to ask this question. I'm in the middle of Ohio. I love it here. I always like to find more Ohio people. Not an Ohio person originally. Montana, one of my favorite states. Big fan of Montana. I absolutely love your state. Been there a couple times, had a blast. My sister got married out there. Beautiful country out there. Okay. 2 from Montana. What a great day. All right, cool. So let's get started. All right. So we've talked about the VA loan. We've talked how awesome it is. There's no PMI. There's no down payment. There's a lot of good stuff about it. Okay. So let's talk house hacking. What is house hacking? House hacking is when you buy a property, an owner occupied property, from 1 unit, so a single family, to up to a 4-unit property. And then while you are living in that property, you are renting out other portions of it. So if you're in a single family, you absolutely can still house hack. You can rent out other rooms. You could rent out the garage. You could rent out storage space if you have it. You could do a ton of different things, and it really all breaks down to your creativity and imagination, honestly, and where you find value. And your goal is, while you're living in that property for that first year that is mandated, you make as much money each month by living below your means, right? And generating as much income as you possibly can. And the goal is to cash flow your mortgage, but at a bare minimum, it's to pay a 1-for-1 on your mortgage. So you're living for free by managing the system, AKA running the business. You're treating that single family home as a business, or, you know, the duplex or triplex or quadplex. It just gets better when you get into more units, because you're able to rent out entire units versus just the rooms. So that's pretty much what house hacking is while you are living in the house, you are hacking the system, you're hacking the financial system, and you're not buying a pure rental property. You have to live in the property, but you do, if you buy a duplex or, you know, 2, 3, or 4 unit, you do buy rental doors. Okay. So it's not a pure rental property. There's a difference. But you are getting rental income from those other properties. So, is that making sense to everybody thus far? Does anybody own any real estate yet? Or are we all complete newbies? That's totally fine. Everybody starts somewhere, and we're all students of the world. So, thoughts on doing that in Hawaii, 25th ID? Okay, I will get to that. We'll talk about this here. There's good markets, there's bad markets, but what I will tell you on this, okay, like obviously Hawaii is expensive. Obviously New York City is expensive. Obviously Washington, D.C. is expensive, right? There's a lot of cities and states and areas that there's bases in that have an extremely high cost of living, right? Here's what I will tell you. It only takes, there's 2 things, okay? And don't let the fact that you're just in a state that, you know, it's like, oh, like I can't afford anything here. Okay. I'm going to tell you a couple quick things, but primarily 2. Okay. The first one is it only takes 1. Okay. Like it only takes 1 tenant or 1 system or 1 idea or 1 thing to make money and get into that property or make that property cash flow. It only takes 1, right? You only, like, they'll say, like, you know, millionaires and billionaires will say, like, you know, try a couple different things, but it only takes 1 thing, and you're probably going to fail at a bunch of them, but it only takes 1 thing to strike it big, right? If you are in a tough market, it does not, like, don't give yourself the excuse to stop trying in the process. Okay. And the reason I will say this is it kind of goes into the kind of wild market that we're in right now. Everybody always says, like, oh, I can't afford it. And, you know, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait. Waiting is for the poor. Waiting is for, and I say that like as a term of endearment. I know everybody gets pissed off when you're like, that's poor. Like, no, you have to go take advantage. You have to go move forward. You have to try. You have to, like, you can't just sit still or else you're not going to go anywhere. When you give yourself that out, it's no good. Okay. You can't make excuses for saying, like, oh, this is not, this is too expensive or X, Y, or Z. I know I'm getting off topic here and kind of rambling, but it only takes 1. And even if you get started in that market and you start looking for properties, you start viewing properties, you start looking at rental rates, everything else, when the right time comes, you will be smarter and you'll be able to hit that ball completely out of the park. Okay. Does that make sense? I know that was a long ramble. I tend to do that sometimes, but whatever. All right. So we've defined house hacking. Does everybody have a pretty good understanding of what house hacking is? Just commissioned. Awesome, man. Dylan, if I'm on this live call here now, I'll be trying to check comments and stuff off TikTok. But dude, if you just commission, join our Discord. It's free. Post about it, or post where you are, where you're at in the world, what you're trying to do. Got like 100 plus people in there, all active duty or veterans, and they're all trying to do the same thing. So I'm in there. I help out in there all the time. And we got some pretty cool stuff. I've got a lawyer coming in to talk contracts. I've got a property manager coming in to do that. So, and those two things, stay tuned, because the more you learn, the easier house hacking gets and the more opportunities you get. So appreciate the follow, Dylan. Thanks, man. Okay. So I'm going to kind of talk through, I'm going to give two stories. Okay. I'm going to talk through my two house hacks that I did with the VA loan. Okay. I've always found that I don't really like talking at you guys. Like, I just don't want to read off slides or notes or whatever. I find it better to teach, and it's more efficient because you guys, I think, get something more out of it by just explaining what I did, how I did it, why I did it, the lessons I learned, X, Y, and Z. So let's talk through my first one. Okay. So my first property that I ever house hacked was a condo in Columbus, Ohio. Okay. It was a purchase price, and I purchased this not that long ago. I purchased this in 2019, at the end of 2019, I believe, and phenomenal interest rates. I look like a hero today, and everybody's like, "Oh, you got it easy because you got good interest rates," and that's all BS. When I started, it was at the beginning. COVID hadn't officially started yet, but as COVID took off, it was pandemonium, and everybody's like, real estate's going to go to zero, the market's going to crash, and whatever. There is never, I want you to know this before I kind of tell my story here, there's never a great time to enter a market. There's a great time to enter, but there's never a perfect time to enter. Okay. And generally, one of the best times to get started is when times are tough. That's a real thing. Okay. So coming into something when it's tough for everybody else is also like one of the best times. Okay. So I'll give you a little bit of background on this. So I had this idea in my brain. I'm like, when I get up to Columbus, I was at Hunter Army Airfield. I was like, when I get up to Columbus, I'm going to buy real estate. Everybody keeps telling me about real estate. And I had also I ran like two small, they were like little bedrooms in my apartment when I lived in Savannah. And I'd run an Airbnb, like two of them. They were really small, right? They barely made any money, like $2,500 a month. And I just rented out 2 rooms in my rental. And I was like, when I get up to Columbus, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to start this Airbnb company and the short-term rental company. And I'm going to start buying real estate. I had no idea what I was doing. Okay. But you still start, fear stares you in the face, and you say, hey, I see you there, but I'm not going to listen to you, and I'm just going to keep moving forward. Okay. So it took me about 2 or 3 months of searching before I first found this place. And the second that I walked in the door, I swear, like before I even saw the property in person, I looked at the listing. I was like, this place is perfect. Okay. And here's some of the things that I was looking for. You're always looking for good mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. MEP, MEP. I've said this till I'm like blue in the face. Okay. Those are really the only big things that will screw you. You also want to look at the roof and the foundation, all those other things, but you really want to make sure that you get good mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. And if it is bad, you want to at least know that how much it's going to cost to fix. And if it has to be fixed, is there any part of that you can fix yourself? Okay. So the reason I really like this place was it had really good mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. But it was also a condo. So I didn't have to worry about the roof. I didn't really have to worry about foundation. It was a brick condo building. So I was just looking at, okay, the appliances look good. Showers look pretty good. Everything's a little bit outdated, which is awesome, because that's your value add, is you can update those things for not too much money over time. You can credit card hack. You can use the Costco credit card, the City Costco Visa. And you can just do a lot of cool stuff to a property. If it's just like a little bit under like perfect, that is like the best place to start. Okay. I also looked at the location. So this was a place that I lived. I lived in both of these properties because you legally have to, right? The first location was extremely desirable. It was like right downtown. I was close to, the restaurants and the retail and the shopping and the parks. And like, it was like a dream life, right? So that was like this is a no-brainer. It's like people are going to want to live here. They're going to want to be near all this stuff. They're going to have great rental rates, X, Y, and Z, right? So I was like, this place is going to be great. Okay. So I bought the property. This is kind of wild, actually. I ended up getting a check. I got a check for $3,000. So my purchase price was $300,000. And it was a 2-bed, 2-bathroom, maybe like 1,100 or so square feet. And I got a check at closing through a seller credit. So I got paid $3,000 to buy my first property. Okay. Which is kind of unheard of. Like, I don't think anybody actually gets paid to purchase their first property. I had ended up, and the reason I got a credit was I got $3,000 for windows. So they gave me, I think it was like 50% of the assessed value of like what it would be to replace the windows. And they're kind of like hazy or whatever. And I just ended up not replacing the windows because they were still in pretty good shape. So I just kept the cash, which was awesome because now I go into a property and I now have $3,000 in cash if I want to put some improvements in, or I created $3,000 out of nothing, which was kind of crazy. So then this was the place. I was a ROTC instructor. I lived in this property. I lived there for about 15 months, I believe, something like that. That was like my COVID house. Like I lived there through COVID. I call that condo. Like I love it. It was like the condo that built Corey. Like it was a really special time. It was very challenging, actually. Really wasn't too happy at work. And once we went home for COVID, like I was there for like 6 months. So I just spent all of my time in that condo researching, learning. That's off topic. But while I was doing all this stuff, I was renting out the other room. I rented a little bit on Airbnb for maybe a month or two. I had one guy that stuck around for it was a roommate of mine for maybe 2 or 3 months, kind of transitory. And then during COVID, my brother-in-law and my sister came up. It wasn't my brother-in-law at the time, but my brother-in-law now and my sister came up to live with me during COVID. Times got tough and we just hunkered down and we rented he basically, split the mortgage. And now I've got a great house hack. I was like, I love my roommate, actually. It's my sister. And it was like really just an awesome experience. Like I got to live with family again. I got to build a better relationship with my brother-in-law. And financially, that also benefited me because I had taken out the mortgage. So now I'm splitting my mortgage, right? Which was fantastic. So a little bit of time goes by and end up getting ready. I'm like, I'm going to go buy another one. Okay. So I do that. And then I think it took me about 2 months or so for me to find my duplex. And again, almost as it was dropped out of the heavens, I find this beautiful property. It's a brick duplex in a less desirable neighborhood. It had old kind of, let's say like maybe 1980s design, like the old popcorn ceilings and everything. But the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing were fantastic on this property. Okay. I mean, it was a new roof, I think maybe 2 years old, like brand new roof. Had a huge lot, didn't have a fence because I was like, okay, awesome. I can add some value. I can, put a fence around it. That'll be advantageous to tenants. I can do that myself. And then I can also get, new carpet, maybe some flooring, a little bit of paint, maybe kind of renovate the kitchens a little bit, and then add some new appliances. And I mean, I was like, I had this whole plan in my brain. So some of the cool stuff about this was, for this property, I needed $2,700 cash to close. And I'm going to tell you guys some tricks here. Everything is street legal. You can do this. It's all in the VA loan guidelines. And those things exist whether you acknowledge them or you don't. So what house hacking is is you want to take advantage of every opportunity that they give you to make money, to generate cash flow, and to hack the system. Okay. So I'll kind of break this down step by step. Okay. So at that time, the two tenants were on month-to-month leases. Okay. So there's 30-day leases and then they automatically renew. So part of my contract of negotiating, or part of the contract, like the VA would not let me occupy the property if I didn't have this written into the contract. So within 60 days, that's when you have to occupy on day like 61. Within 60 days of closing, one of the tenants, and this is what I just put on the seller, is that one of the tenants will have to move out. And we gave them a 90-day window to find other accommodations. We did a 30-day close. And then once I closed, then they paid me the rent. And I remember I put $2,700 cash to close. So I bought a $280,000 property for $2,700. Again, absolutely absurd. And then each property was rented at $750 per side. And I'd already done my research, well below market rent. I had assessed market rent. I did a couple of rental comps in the area. I think it was like 1,500, maybe 1,550. So almost like half. Like I basically could double rent. So what I ended up doing was, now that I closed on the property, I collected $750 on one side and $750 on the other side. And so that's $1,500 for 2 months before I even occupied the property. So if you remember, I put $2,700 down. And in the first 2 months before I even occupied the property, I had recouped $3,000 worth of income. The beauty about this is I didn't have a mortgage. My first mortgage payment wasn't for like almost 60 days. So I had no expenses and I just collected another $3,000, which is, again, magic, right? It's all because I had learned the system. I learned what I could do, what I couldn't do. I'll get to your question here in a second. Any predictions on the rapid rise of rate? I will get to that because I get that question a lot. So get into the property. One tenant moves out, continue to rent to the same tenant at $750. Didn't raise rent at all, just kept her in there. She was great, awesome, had a great experience. Then once our one tenant moved out, I move into the one side and I start fixing it up. I do some carpet, I do some paint, I did all the shit myself. I pretty much did everything. You know, my sister and John helped me out a little bit, had some other friends that came by. And I just started getting to work, made the property nicer. And I'd say it took me a couple months, and I talked to the other girl on the other side, the tenant. I was like, hey, this is my plan. This is what I'd like to do. I'd like to sometime in the next 6 or so months, move over and occupy this side and rent this side out. So I worked with her, which again, as a landlord, if you own the real estate, you have the option. I don't have to do that. Like the legal side was this $30 30-day rental rates or 31 days. I was like, you can just terminate it with no unemotional. But something that I believe in, something I talk about a lot with School of Grit, is once you own the thing, you have the ability to bring more empathy to business. And that's something that I do believe in. There is a line. You still have to run it like a business. You can't just be a complete charity, right? But there's an edge to you that you can now develop. And this is what I believe in. I believe in, if more service members get into home ownership, they become better landlords and they become better business people, and they take care of people better. I believe that that's what's missing in a lot of business today, because nobody gives a fuck anymore. But I try. So, and that's what I teach. And I encourage everybody else to be a human being, still run the business, still make a shit ton of money, or, as much as you can, but still communicate effectively with people, treat them with dignity and respect. And it's worked out fantastic for me. I've had near 100% occupancy, high 90s over the last 5 years on all of my properties. I've gotten at least market rent, but most of my properties are above market rent. And I've had very little turnover. Most of my tenants have stayed with me for 2, 3, 4 years now. So proof is in the pudding. This stuff works. And it's changed my life. So that's why I'm here talking about it. But anyway, I digress. So after a couple months, I ended up moving to the other side. That one tenant, I was working with her, and she ended up moving out to another property. And then I got the first side rented for, I believe my first contract was $1,600, and we did a $50 flat water fee. So basically at that time, that was like paying the mortgage with a little bit. Obviously the taxes hadn't been increased, for that first year or two, whatever, until they do the tax assessment. And then I started doing the same thing on the other side. And my plan for this one was, because I was running my short-term rental company, I was like, I've got one long-term tenant here, and that's paying for at least the debt service. So this one, I'm going to run an Airbnb, which at the time was like much more lucrative. So I worked on, furnishing it. I got it all set up. I did this one a little bit nicer, and that property ended up generating me probably anywhere between $2,500 to $3,500 a month in net, in like actual cash flow. So first property paid for the mortgage with a little bit of expenses. Second property was generating, anywhere from 25 to 3,500. Maybe we touched $4,000. I don't remember, but around that, $2,000 to $3,000. So for those of you watching this, if you make 60 grand a year, you're pulling in what, like $5,000 a month. So with one property, I was able to generate, 2/3, half, 3/4, let's say, $3,000 out of $5,000 a month. If you're getting paid, monthly, it's pretty incredible. Even $2,500 a month on one property is life-changing. That's 50%. That means that each day, this was one of my favorite things to say, it was like, once you start generating half of your salary through real estate or business, right? You now have 2.5 work days out of the week. So you go into work on Monday. If you conceptualize this, you go into work on Monday, you go into work on Tuesday, and then Wednesday you have a half day, and then you're off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Or if you think about that, if you're able to do that, you work 6 months out of the year. That's life-changing. And if you do what I've said in other parts of this class, which is limit your expenses, your freedom comes faster, because if you need $3,000 to live or $4,000 to live at that rate, I was like one or two properties away, $500 to $1,500 away from achieving my financial freedom just after that first property. So it was truly it was life-changing. So now I've gotten the first condo rented. That was cash flowing, I think, about $400 or $500 a month. Then I got into my second property, which was my duplex. And then that ended up cash flowing consistently for a couple of years. Over time, I think it averaged out to be about $2,500, $2,500 a month. So this is like truly life. That was life-changing money for me. So those are my two VA loan house hacks, just kind of the general story, like the high wave tops. And then each of those properties, since purchasing them, have probably appreciated somewhere in the 70 to, I'd say, maybe 85K range. So if you remember, I put $0 down, and those properties have each generated, let's say on the low end, let's say they made 60 grand per since I purchased them, right? I put $0 down. Obviously, I've had some expenses and stuff over the years. Nothing is free. But even if I had 50, even if each property made me 50 grand, right? That's $100,000. That is a shit ton of money for the average. I'm an average person, right? I wear LL Bean. I'm pretty average, right? $100,000 in appreciation for doing some paperwork. It's really what the VA loan is. It's you're doing some paperwork, you're walking through, and you're fixing stuff when it breaks, and then you're learning and you're figuring out how to get good tenants. You're managing the system, right? But for that little of work, it can be daunting at times, obviously, but everything worthwhile is challenging. It's hard. It's not supposed to be fucking easy, right? But like if I really break it down, the amount of work that I put into that to generate $100,000, even over a couple of year span, like if I sold all those things off, right, that is like life-changing money. It's about a year's salary for somebody, right? It's pretty incredible. So I tell the stories not to brag. It's not really anything serious to brag about. It's not like multi-million dollars, but like for what you put into it and the value that you get out of it, it is one of the best investments I've ever made is house hacking with my VA loan. That's what I talk about. So, all right, let's take a quick break from our regularly scheduled talk here, and let's answer some questions. I'm getting off TikTok. Okay. Okay, so let's talk rates real quick, and then I'll talk, TJ, I'll talk your question. Okay, so here's what I think about rates. All right. I have no idea. I can't predict the future. I don't know if the shit's going to go up, down, or sideways. And that's just the facts. And anybody that tells you that they know exactly what's going to happen, they're fucking lying, because nobody has any idea what's going to happen. Maybe some people at the Fed, and even if those guys, I don't even know if they know what they're doing. But here's what I'll tell you, okay? If you look at a lot of statistics of the rates or the rate at which builders are building homes, how expensive it is, how many people need homes, X, Y, Z. If you start looking into some of these facts and figures, it gets pretty simple, okay? I'm always buying. I just bought this property that I live in now, the farm that's in all my social media and everything else. I am at 7.5%. That's like egregiously high for most people. Most people can't comprehend that. Like that's a lot. That's a high interest rate. I don't give a fuck, because this place, to me, A, I can afford the mortgage payment. B, I'm going to force appreciate it because I'm going to do a ton of work here for myself. That's going to, make the property better. I'll redo some of the bathrooms. I'll build out the basement. We'll build some other stuff outside. But this is my like actual home. So I built the business first, right? I did the condo, the duplex, the other properties, right? I started generating revenue elsewhere, made other investments. I built all that shit first. And then I bought this place. And this place, I am also still sticking to the principle of house hacking. On this property, I'm looking at a USDA loan. You can do USDA loans for 50 grand. You can get animals. You can get fencing put in. I just talked with USDA guys like last week. The interest rates are almost irrelevant if you start playing the game and you start understanding how to house hack, because then you just have to figure out how to make more money. And yeah, I'm an hour outside of a city, which a lot of people don't want to do, but that's not my problem. That's their problem. I am willing to go places where the money is and make it work and live a little bit more uncomfortable, which most people are not willing to do. That's what I fucking recommend, because that's the shit that worked for me. Okay. You can't just be comfortable the entire time. Like I've made tons and tons of sacrifices, but holy shit, it actually worked too. Like when you read all the books and like, you're going to have to sacrifice, you're going to have to do shit you don't want to do. All those books and all those people that say that stuff, they're fucking right. And it worked. 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I didn't know that it was going to work. Now I have the proof. Like Alex Hormozy says this. He's like, I have the proof. I've done it. I've generated hundreds of thousands of dollars. I cash flow, thousands of dollars a month passively or very, very semi-passively. And it's worked. So, but to answer your question directly on interest rates, if interest rates go up and I bought at 7.5%, that's fucking great, because now I have an interest rate that's lower than what the market is charging, right? Here's the other thing. If interest rates go down, I just do a refinance. I just do an IRRRL. You refinance your rate and you get a lower rate and you reset your debt. Okay. Here's the other thing though. If interest rates do go down, do you know what's going to happen, in my opinion, to prices? And lots of people have said this. Prices are probably going to fucking go up, because that's going to increase the demand, because all these people that have been fucking sitting on the sidelines, what are they going to do now that the rates are starting to pencil for their DTI, their debt to income ratio? That's going to create, there's only one way that pressure can go, and it's up. So now, you're getting a lower interest rate, but you're paying higher prices because the demand for the properties is increasing. But me, who was taking advantage of people being in flux and like, I want to wait till rates come down, I'm going to see what the market does. I said, like just yeeted it and was like, no, I see this property. I love this property. I can live here for a very, very, very long time. And I found it and I went after it. So now I'm locked in at that appraisal rate, the purchase price. And then I just do a refinance. So my payment actually comes down. So I don't have to, go through that whole other thing. Right. So, if that makes sense to you, there's no perfect way, like anything that I say, anything that Buffett says, any real estate mogul, like nobody has lived in 2025 yet up until now. Like they don't know what tomorrow looks like, right? You need to be comfortable knowing that shit might go wrong, but in everything that I talk about, everything I'm talking about here today and that I talk about in School of Grit, you need to use this, okay? Because once you've developed your brain, the problem is right now, you all watching this, you don't have the time in the game that I have, and I don't even have that much, right? But once you start getting in there and you start putting those nuggets of like, oh, I made it past this one. I did this. I got this. Oh my God, I made money on this. I got my first tenant and I didn't have to evict them. They stayed and they paid their rent. Once you start building up those wins, you're going to build up your confidence and you're going to start to see that there's never really a perfect scenario. You just have to take action. You have to be aggressive. You have to take the initiative and it always works out. And if it doesn't work out, you're falling forward and you're learning through the entire process. So, all right, I'll do one more question here. TJ, all right, I'll do two of these because these are good questions. All right, how do you analyze properties to ensure they will cash flow? So this is a great question. I was actually going to talk about this here shortly, but let me ask this other. Hold on, advice for active duty. I want to start E4 and below. JKL. I don't know what your username is. These two will kind of go together. Okay. I get this question so much, and I want to address the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Okay. What do I do if I'm an E4, I'm in the barracks or X, Y, or Z, or I want to get started, or I don't make enough money? You're right where you're supposed to be. Okay. Because you're asking the question, which is fantastic. Okay. I can't give you the exact answer. Okay. But what I can tell you to do, grow where you are planted. Okay. If you're in the barracks and you got 3 years till you get out of the barracks or whatever, till you make E5 or E6 or whenever you can get out, you can control some of that. How fast can you get promoted? What can you do at work? What schools can you go to? What can you improve? Can you increase your PT score? You're immediately starting to chip away at getting out faster. People say, oh, I'm an E4 or I'm a specialist or whatever. I live in the barracks. Get out faster. That's part of this whole process. That is School of Grit. That's what I talk about is you can always make progress, right? And what you can also do is you can sit on these stupid seminars with me and you can learn a ton of shit. You can get in the Discord. You can start networking with people. You can start watching hours and hours and hours and hours of YouTube. You can go read books. You can go to real estate meetups. You can go pay $150 or $200 on a weekend, which might seem like a lot, but you're investing it into yourself and you're going to go learn more stuff about real estate. You don't have to do that right away. Everything you need is free on the internet. It's either provided by me through School of Grit. Most of that stuff's free. Like pretty much everything is free unless you want to work with me directly. That's paid. But all the other stuff is free. The Discord's free. I've put hundreds of videos and clips and everything else. You can start learning for free. That is the number one thing that I harp on the most, because the smarter you get, that knowledge is power thing, right? That's a real thing. The smarter you can get yourself, the more likely it is that you're going to make a good investment on your first try, which again, doesn't always happen, but you're more likely to identify that good property faster if you've already learned, because the people that think small and they're like, I'm just going to wait. That's not the right time. They give up and they don't get smart. When the economy takes a shit, the best way to capitalize on that when everything's on discount is you want to know how to do that. So you have to learn that prior to the thing going up in smoke. So if you're putting in your time and you're getting smarter and you're getting smarter, and like right now, if the economy takes a dump and real estate takes a shit, I'm in great position because I've been doing this for the last like over half a decade, 5-6 years. I'm in better position to know what's good, what's bad, where to buy, how to buy, all these other things. It's because I put in the time and effort. And it was substantial. It was a lot of work, but it also wasn't that much work for how much I was able to get out of it. So I hope that helps, man. I know that's a long-winded answer. Okay, so let's talk. So the next part of this, we'll kind of go through how to look for properties, okay? There is an art and there is a science to assessing a property. All right, this is probably one of the last things I talk about today because this will kind of cover most of it, all right? So generating the most amount of income on a property is the best thing. That's what everybody is seeking to do. Well, how do I know if it's a good rental property? How do I know if I'm going to get, how do you get market comp rents? How do you do this? How do you do that? There's no magic sauce. There is risk in everything. And I harp on that because I want you guys to know that up front. Okay. Appreciate the follow, man. Hope this is helping. So there's a million different ways that you can go about this. Okay. You are probably going to end up somewhere between $100 to $200 of market rent if you do the rest of the system. You buy the right property, you get it for the right price, X, Y, or Z. You're not just I gotta go get one, I gotta get one, and then you're out punching or you're out shooting your coverage, right? Hold on, let me rewind that. How do you find market rent, right? The gold standard, right? There's a couple of different ways, okay? I can say the blatant one is you can go on all these different websites. You can go on Zillow and all these other things and just look at what other properties in the neighborhood are going for, and you'll get a ballpark, okay? That's not bad. I've done a lot of that. A lot of the stuff I've done also has been off of Zillow. And I know everybody hates on Zillow because the valuations are wrong and everything else. But I've almost always ended up, actually, I have always ended up getting like $300+ over the Zillow rental rates. So Zillow, if it's close on Zillow, you're actually probably undershooting what you can get on the property. So if it's good on Zillow, my experience is that you're actually in really good shape. But what you really want is you really want to talk to agents or brokers, but specifically you want to talk to property managers. So, which is a good segue. If you get in our Discord, I just posted this today. My personal property manager down in Texas, Pompey, 20-year Air Force veteran, retired, started his own property management company and is an agent down there in San Antonio in that area by the Air Force base down there. He is doing, I believe it's on the 10th. So I think it's actually tomorrow. Double check, get in the Discord. The channel is The Talk, TOC. It's aptly named. That's where we do all of our coordinations. Get in there. I'm going to post this on all my other social medias. Pompey is going to go over in depth on a lot of property management stuff. But that's who you really want to talk to. You really want to talk to a property manager that manages actively properties in the neighborhood that you are looking to buy in, and you want to get their advice. And sometimes they'll tell you to pound sand. They'll be like, if I'm not going to manage the property, I don't want to touch it, right? But it never hurts to ask. Hey, what do you think this would rent for? Is this a good property? Would you buy this property? Your ability to network and speak with people and talk to them and get information out of them, that is going to really help you with this. All right. You can ask the seller. Like there's a million different, and granted they're the seller, so they're probably not going to care that much. But what's the current? If you're buying a multifamily, you're obviously going to get the rental rates for what the stuff is currently rented at, right? So it's either going to be at or above those rental rates. And like I said earlier on this call, I've been able to get above market rent because when you're in residential real estate, you're in the people business. Okay. And people buy, and also people are willing to pay more for a better service, for better amenities. I've put great amenities in all my properties. I make things because I've lived in these properties before. And even if I haven't necessarily lived in the properties, if I buy like a conventional rental, I know what it takes. Like, I know what people want. It's not that hard. They want nice convenience. They want good stuff. And the number one thing that has kept, I think, people in my properties longer term has been when shit breaks, I get it fixed like immediately, like literally immediately. I've gone in the middle of the night, and you don't have to do this stuff, but sometimes I've gone late nights. I've gone early mornings. I fixed things. I've probably overpaid to get speed in there to get the thing fixed. Now, another question, will people take advantage of you? Will you lose money? You have to walk the fine line. There's no magic answer. You have to be fair. You can't lose money. And if people destroy your shit, hold them accountable. It's very simple. It's just like the army. It's just like the military, right? We have standards, we have procedures, we have rules to be followed, right? And if you deviate outside of those, then, that's how that works. You have to, you still have to run the business. You have to run your unit, X, Y, or Z. You have to run it fairly and according to the standard, right? But don't let all those things stop you from striving to be getting into this and make it work, because it does. And I'm nothing special, and I've made it work the last 5 years. That's not a miracle. There's some skill. Of course, there's some luck in there. Everybody gets lucky. But you have to be in the arena. I say this all the time. You have to be in the arena to make a lucky play. You don't just get lucky sitting on the sidelines. You get lucky by playing the game. You have to step into the arena to play the game in order to make a lucky play or get a lucky break. Okay. That's a mental thing. That's you can't really quantify that. You have to take that risk. And if you don't, you get what you get. All right. These are good questions though. What else? Probably got another 5 or so minutes before we'll probably wind down here. Take a look at my notes. What other what questions do you guys got? There's this topic. I can talk about this for hours. I don't have that long tonight. Got to get up at 3:30 for the yoga. Got to drive down to the city. But I can talk about this stuff for hours and hours and hours. If you find value in this, check out the Discord. We go live there probably once or twice a week. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to be having real live lawyers, practicing attorneys, real estate attorneys, business attorneys, and they will answer your questions. And that is actual legal, that's legal advice because it's a lawyer. Obviously not your representing attorney, but very, very good information to know. Ton of free chicken out there. I'll be answering more questions. If you guys have questions, tag me in the Discord. I post a little bit on Facebook. I do a ton of stuff on LinkedIn, but primarily I'm on TikTok. I'm on here all the damn time. And then we've got some phenomenal speakers coming up in the next couple of weeks. Discord is free right now. If you guys got questions, ask them in there. I do my best to get back to you guys as fast as possible. This is the main thing that I'm working on right now. I do a lot of stuff. I'm getting into larger scale real estate, commercial properties, business buying. If you guys are interested, if you're transitioning out of the military, we are actively buying businesses, and we are actively looking for service members to take over and run those businesses. That's the top tier commitment, and that's a big thing. We've got a back end process for that. But just getting started with the VA loan is fantastic. But if you guys are looking to get over and really start changing your life, not that your life sucks, but if you want to change it, we're here to help you do that. At School of Grit, we're getting service members into business, entrepreneurship, and real estate. So I'll work with you. We'll get you into some house hacking. That's really our goal, is the epitome, the pinnacle, the tip of the spear is we get service members, you transition out, we get you into house hack. So you get started in real estate, which is what I did. And then you also get into business ownership, and we help you from top to bottom with that. You have to work your ass off though. Like, it is not easy. But if that's something you guys are interested in, happy to work with you. Our website's got signups. We do paid coaching. You don't work with anybody else but me on the paid coaching side. For the financial freedom side, the financial freedom, those classes at 6 classes, and then the VA loan coaching is 3 classes. It's 3 hour long. Each one is about an hour long, a little over. So if that's something that you guys are taking serious, you're ready to buy and you want help, you guys can do all this shit without me. You don't need me, but because I have the experience, because I have the last couple of years, and because I did this primarily all when I was on active duty, I can tell you exactly how to hack your time, exactly how to structure your day, exactly what to do to make sure that you get there faster. Okay. So if you don't want to spend all of the time that I did, like screwing around and making mistakes and everything else, I can save you. I can't save you from making every mistake. I can't even guarantee you success. Actually, you have to do that. Nobody else can guarantee your success except for you. If anybody else says that, they're fucking lying to you. You have to want this. Okay? I mean that. You have to want this. And nobody can want it more than you. I say this all the time. And if you start working with me and I start wanting your dreams more than you do, I will no longer work with you. I'll give you your money back. Just good luck, man. You have to want it. You have to want your financial freedom. You have to want to buy real estate. You have to want to change your life more than anybody else in the world. There's not another human being or animal or whatever that wants my goals for me more than me. And there never will be. It's my path. That's what I'm going after, and nobody wants it more than me. I expect and demand the exact same thing from you guys. But if you have it and you want to go chase that, I am more than happy to help you get there. I think of it as the coaching side is like bumpers, right? I give this analogy. I'll kind of end on this one. Think of School of Grit, think of coaching as the bumpers, right? When you're a little kid and you went bowling, they put the bumpers down so you don't end up in the gutters, or at least there's still that one little, like all the way at the end, you could hit that 7-10 split and still hit the gutter and not hit any of the pins. That's still a possibility. But for the most part, you're going to stay out of the gutter. You know, you're going to get way down the lane farther and stay out of the gutter until the end. And you're probably going to hit some pins. And the beauty about the game is the ball comes back and you roll it again. Okay. So hope this was helpful. I got a ton more stuff that I can go over with you guys. I mean, it's just infinite, but get out there, start getting after it, start learning. If I can be of help or service to you guys, hit me up. And I hope everybody is having a great night. And I will talk to you all later. I'll stick around for probably a minute or two, answer some more questions. And then I'm going to hop off. So cool. But if I don't hear anything in the next like 30 seconds, I'm going to hop off. All right. Nothing heard. Cool. Well, I answered some pretty good questions. It was a pleasure having you all on. I hope you all learned something, and I will talk to you all later.